So the big challenge is, how do we create demand for any product or any service? And to me, the fundamental thing comes down to answering one core question. It's a multi-part question. And that question is, what problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? So by identifying the problem that you solve, it enables you, rather than saying to people, I train people in using MyOp, or I teach people how to use PowerPoint or an Office application, whatever it may be, you can actually ask them the questions about the usage of those things to identify how comfortable and familiar they are with them. David mentioned a software company that I've worked with for a number of years now, close to certainly over 10 years. What we identified with this software, it's designed to help trade service businesses make their business operations more efficient. And by asking the question of the customer that identifies a problem within their business, you then elicit conversation from those people around that topic. And as they tell you more and more and more about how that problem affects their business, how it slows them down, how it creates drama, stress, and additional problems, by letting them talk through that and keep on talking, you will eventually find yourself in a position where you can say, I think I can help you. Let me explain how. You see, what I do is this. And instead of saying, I teach MyOb, you talk to them about how you can address the particular problem that they have in their business. You mentioned the plumber that you were working with before. Now, the challenge there is that, like in so many trade businesses, what's happened is that Mrs. Tradie is assumed to be an expert in bookkeeping. She's assumed to know how to set up email addresses. She's assumed to know how to do things. But she's been thrust into this and she's never had any training. See, Mr. Plumber probably worked for somebody else before he went out on his own. And he got frustrated with his boss, or thought he could do it better, or thought he could do it cheaper, or had a different solution. So he goes out on his own, and then he realises that he's got all these legal compliance issues to deal with. He's got supplier invoice, he's got fuel accounts, he's got insurance, he's got all kinds of other things going on around him, and he doesn't know how to document. So he just passes the box of stuff over to his wife and says, look after this, and she doesn't know. So she sits tearing her hair out until the angel comes along, as Julia, and helps them identify that they actually need some help. Now, what's interesting is that your plumbing friend probably knows a dozen other plumbers. Maybe a few electricians, maybe a couple of builders, a few handymen that he refers work to and that refer work to him. So there's immediately a referral base within that client group. So by asking her, not him, asking her how many other wives she knows who are in the same situation as she is, struggling with their books, struggling to get things done, not knowing the legal implications of getting a BAS statement wrong or failing to lodge a superannuation payment on time. How many other people does she know that you're able to help? And what else doesn't she know? If he needed to put a very smart quote together for a client, for a decent-sized job, does she know how to put together a document in Word properly and format it and put pictures in and wrap the text in the pictures? Does she know how to do that? If they have a website, does she know how to access it to update information on that website? Can she use the content management system? So by using questions in conversation, you can very easily identify the challenges that people have within the business. And the way that most people go about the process of asking questions is highly staccato and in many ways quite threatening, because what they tend to do is they tend to ask far, far too many closed questions. A closed question is one that has a yes, no, up, down, check, cash, bank card type answer. And that kind of questioning gets extremely infuriating from the listener's perspective, but it also doesn't reveal a lot of valuable information from the customer or from whoever you're talking to. So the solution to that is to learn not one, but two more additional questioning styles. Now, we've heard of closed questions, and we've obviously heard of open questions. An open question is a question that starts with who, what, when, where, why, and how. So if you think about those 6 words, who, what, when, where, why, and how, it's actually incredibly difficult to answer those questions with a yes-no answer. So they're designed to elicit conversation. And if you listen to a good quality TV or radio interview, you will witness and you will hear them using questions that are designed to get the interviewee talking. Michael Parkinson's brilliant at it. And so what happens is that he puts the question out that elicits a series of answers, and he listens very carefully to what's heard to pick the little gem that will give him his next question. So he will take that person down a thread. Somebody like Parkinson obviously knows the outcome of where they're going, because he knows if he doesn't know pretty much the answer to any question he asks, he's in trouble, because he's going to get himself into very hot water, as he's done with a couple of difficult people over the years. The challenge becomes to listen to the conversation and restrain yourself from jumping in with pitching or offering what you have to sell. Most people are way too excited and way too keen to talk about what they do, as opposed to listening to what the other person does and asking questions to understand more about the business and how they conduct it. Within our language pattern, when you ask an open question, I'd just like you to ask yourself a question, what's for dinner tonight? Just mentally ask yourself that question. Now, listen to your voice, because at the end of that sentence, there's a voice inflection. See, our voice inflects at the end of a question. And when you're talking to somebody and ask a question, they hear that, and there's an automatic response to be guarded and cautious about how you answer the question. So when you're asking an open question, there's a very easy way to disguise that inflection at the end of it. And that's the third kind of question, or the third way to answer a question, is to preface the sentence with the words, tell me about. Or tell me who, tell me what, tell me why, tell me when, tell me how. Because when you do that, there is no inflection at the end of the sentence. There's actually a monotone or even a drop. Now, from an NLP perspective, if you study NLP, in fact, what that is, it's called an embedded command. So you're actually giving somebody command, which is tell me about. But by using it in a conversational tone, tell me about how you manage your bookkeeping process, or tell me about the way you do your books. Tell me what software you use to use your books. I say, oh, we use Mile. Is it a comfortable experience? Now, the chances are that if it isn't, they're going to go, oh, you're not wrong, it's not a comfortable experience. Oh, really? Tell me why. So by asking more and more questions of that person and finding out where the problems and challenges really are, it makes it very much easier for you to propose what we call an appropriate solution. So you could say to Mrs. Plummer, let's say her name's Monica. You say to Monica, you know, Monica, it really hurts me to hear you having all these problems with Mile, because, you know, once you get to know that package, it's really incredibly easy. You know what? Part of what I do in my business is teach people like you who suffer and struggle with these things how to use this product effectively. How would you feel if I offered to give you half an hour of my time to pop round and show you a few little tricks that you probably don't know, and have a look at what you're doing? Then perhaps we could work out something that will help you overcome the problems and the difficulties that you're having. Does that sound viable to you for us to do that?
To me, it's being pushy.
Now, but you see, at that point, you see, this is where the objection to selling comes in, because people don't understand that if somebody has explained a problem to you and you offer them a solution, they're actually going to thank you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, if it gets to the stage where they want me, then I always get the sale. It's talking to people in the first place.
But you see, the ones you're missing are the ones that you aren't asking, because they're not always going to volunteer that to you. And
I'm not meeting those people. That's my problem, that I'm not meeting them.
No. I understand that. I'm simply explaining a process to you.
Oh, yeah.
So you see, what you're doing at this stage is that by listening to people explaining what the problems are with Mile, you then you start to collect a dossier of questions and problems that people have with Mile. So you would probably understand 10 or 20 different challenges that people regularly face with a piece of software, right?
But I always get the sale if I'm talking to someone.
Yeah, but you see, what I'm looking at is how to get you in front of people you aren't talking about.
Yeah, that's
okay,
how
well, this is where I'm going with this.
Oh,
at the
okay,
moment,
okay.
So I'm using you as a case study.
Sure. As I say, if I start talking to someone, I always get the business, because I know about open and closed and probing questions.
But you're not talking to enough people.
No, I'm not.
You see, so what I'm doing is explaining how you can use your current knowledge to get in front of more people. Okay. So you know who your target market is. And as you say, when you get into conversation with somebody who's come to you as a referral, or you've met at a function like this, invariably you will get the opportunity to present what you do and make the sale. So knowing what the problems are and knowing who your target market is, the very easy thing for you to do is to build a database of prospects simply by looking through the phone book, looking at vans, vehicles, asking for referrals, and you write a letter to those people. Sorry?
This is what I hate. This is the process that I hate.
Yeah, well, this is what's necessary
for
you to do to grow your business. So by building a database and writing a letter, and somebody like David can help you with this, that says...
Which I've already asked David to.
You know, dear Mrs. Tradesman, or, you know, however you want to write the letter. Do you have these problems in managing the books for your business? And you list 6 or 8 of the most common problems that you know they're likely to experience.
Are you listening to this?
Of course, I'm recording it.
Yeah,
oh, right.
So then you see what happens is that you put a letter in front of them that says, dear Mrs. Tradesperson, you know, do you have these problems in managing the books for your business? And she's going to go, yes, I do. And you say, do you recognise that, you know, some of the inherent risks in not getting on top of this? And you talk about some of the, you know, the fines and impositions for late or incorrect lodgement of superannuation submissions, or problems with incorrect BAS statements and things of that kind. And say, we can change all this for you. Just 20 minutes on the phone, or whatever your offer is, to come and see them or talk to them. We can find a solution to this that will mean that all your BAS statements are done on time and accurately, all of your superannuation is correctly recorded, all of the annual leave entitlements, sick leave entitlements, workers' compensation, holiday leave, sick leave, etc. for all of your staff will all be managed correctly, so that whenever somebody asks you for leave or applies for sick leave, you have accurate records as to whether they have time available or not. Don't you think it might be worth a chat? Question mark. So give me a call, here's where you'll reach me, and let's get together. And if you put that in front of enough people, that will get you business. So all you're doing is that you're taking the problems that you hear and you're posing them back to other people and saying, do you have these problems? And you know they do, because you've talked to 50, 100, 200, 500 people who have that problem. So the chances are that if all those people have that problem, everybody else who's in the software who's not proficient at it is going to have the same problem. So all you're doing is saying, listen, I know you've got this problem and I can fix it. But you're not telling them, I know you have it. You're asking if they do. And if they say yes to more than 4 or 5 of the things, there's a very valid case for them to come and talk to you. So really all you need to do is put that offer together and get it out in the mail every week. Put a batch of them out every week. It's not difficult to do. It's just a form letter. You print it, you put it in an envelope, you address the envelope, you put a stamp on it, you drop it in the letterbox. I agree. Well spoken, And doing that on a regular basis will generate you sufficient leads for you to have somebody to make the phone calls for you if you want. So you could actually pay somebody to make some phone calls for you. And there are lots and lots and lots of VAs around the place who would willingly make those 50 phone calls for you every week to follow them up and organise the time for you to talk to the people. And then the thing that you like to do most of all that gets you the business, talking to people, is happening for you by remote control.
Yes, I know.
You see, the thing is that we all know. The thing is that we don't do.
Well, I did, and got nothing. And
yeah,
it's just because I've got such a negative. I just hate being sold to myself.
But you see, that doesn't necessarily apply to other people, and it depends. See, the process of selling, when it's done properly, making a sale is extremely easy. And the big challenge when you hate being sold to is to understand that there are times where other people want to be.
Yes, yes. I understand that.
Because when they have a problem that you can solve, packaged the correct way, they'll walk over a glass of wine.
I've been in business now 28 years, and I've just always relied on repeat and referral. It hasn't made me a fortune. It's just enabled me to live comfortably.
It'd be nice to be able to go a bit beyond that, wouldn't it?
Yes. I did hire a marketing person, and she said, "You're a real handicap to the business."
She said you are?
Yeah.
And why did she say that?
Because I'm being resistant.
Yeah, I noticed you are being resistant, though.
I loathe the whole process. It irritates me beyond belief because I think it's so immoral.
But it isn't immoral. Because nothing happens in business until a sale is made. See, if the selling process was immoral, you wouldn't have any customers because they've all bought from you. So a sale's been made. So in that case, your business is immoral.
Yeah. So when I say immoral, I mean the techniques that convince someone to buy with something that they can't afford or don't really need.
Okay, but you see, they can't afford not to have what you want if they can't use the software. So where does that?
Oh yeah. For my service.
But you see, you're not engaged in doing that. I'm not suggesting you go and spend $2,000 and go to an internet marketing seminar that won't do you any good. So where in what you do, because you see what you're seeing is a reflection of something else. So what are you seeing that you hate in what you do?
It's approaching people. If people approach me and say I need help, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's the approaching people who haven't asked for my help.
That's all right. But you see, direct mail has been used successfully for hundreds of years to generate business. Because see, when you put a letter in front of somebody, they have two options. They can read it and act, or they can read it and not act. Now, if they read it and don't act, that's fine. But if they read it and act, it means that you're saying to them, hey, listen, I know your problem and I can solve it. And they ring you because they're saying thank you. Now, do you think that's something that's ethical? If they ring you and say, thank you, I'm pleased you can identify the problem and I believe you can help me solve it, is that ethical?
Yeah, that's ethical.
Okay, so we're not doing anything that contravenes any ethical stance or belief from your perspective. So if you then put a $1 scratch-it ticket on that letter and says, is your knowledge of my job up to scratch?
Oh, how clever. Now that is very clever.
Right?
Well, another marketing person suggested I put a painkiller tablet.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's I'm being videoed. I won't sound really. I mean, that's just rubbish. And you don't want to go, and you don't want to put a tea bag on because somebody's then going to object to the fact that they don't know where the tea bag's been. You know, you've got to be really careful with stuff like that.
Yeah, but see, if I receive something like, my problem is that if I receive something like that, it just makes me vomit.
Yeah, okay, but you see, if I were to identify a problem that you have in your personal life and wrote you a letter and said, listen, is this a problem for you? Does this cause you irritation, sleepless nights, everything else? If that letter really tugged at your heartstrings...
No, it would go in the bin because I don't respond to any cold calls, ever.
Yeah, but you see, we're not talking about your customers.
We're talking about...
We're talking about your customers. Yeah. So just because you wouldn't respond doesn't mean they won't.
So that's where my mental block is, and why I'm so resistant, and why I've hired people to do it for me, because I know that I'm useless at it, and spent so much money for so little result.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion to you, if I can be really straight? Get over it.
Yeah, okay. I'm just reluctant to throw more good money after bad.
No, this is in marketing. It's called testing.
Test and measure, yes.
Because when you put an offer out that doesn't work, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It simply means you put the wrong offer out. The best copywriters in the world, the best advertising people in the world will say, if they can get 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 right, they're doing incredibly well. Incredibly well. Do you have a website?
Yes.
Are you running an AdWords campaign to direct traffic to it?
Not yet. It's in the process of being redesigned and redone, and that's getting David to do copy for it. Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with you running AdWords to it now to find out what keywords work?
Oh, again, tried with my website, tried the AdWords, got nowhere, what didn't work.
But AdWords works if you do it right. So all you're saying is that what you did and tested didn't work. We're not saying AdWords is wrong or bad because it works. It's simply a matter of getting the copy right and appealing to the right keywords. So I mean,
and that to me seems such a. See, I'm a black and white person. And tell me what to do. Give me the answer. And marketing people can't.
Yeah, well, I just gave you the answer. I wrote a letter.
Yes,
I told you what to put in the letter.
So
write the letter, send it out.
Okay, and I know that hasn't worked for me in the past. I know I've got to keep doing it, but I'm resistant because you're telling me to do something that I have done and it hasn't worked.
But you've done one way or 2 ways. There may be 20 or 30 different ways.
Yeah,
of which
20 or 30 different ways.
Good.
And as I say, I've employed people to get it right for me. Mm-hmm. And they've failed, absolutely.
Have they failed, or have you failed them with the information you've given them? Because see, if they sent your anathema to the process, are they reluctant to make suggestions to you because you're so resistant to the process?
Well, I actually got I knew that was a problem with me, so I got them to deal with my staff instead.
Yeah.